Hello and welcome to another episode of the Smash Accept podcast. I'm your host, Michael Royer. You can find me on Twitter at Dynasty Dad FF. Joined as always by my main man at FFSnoog. Today's a fun one because what we're going to be talking about and what everybody should be talking about right now is, let's put our money where our mouth is. Let's get some fantasy hot takes. And Snoog, a lot of times hot takes are people just throw things out at the wall. When you and I were sending our lists, and I didn't see your list until right now, you didn't see my list until right now, and I'm looking at them and I'm like, this is our brand. This is what we've been saying. They're based in, yes, they're going to be hot. There's going to be different levels of hot, but they're all based in what our beliefs are in fantasy football, in Dynasty, in these rookies, and in these athletes. So, I'm excited to really start chopping it up when we talk about hot takes. But when we do this show every year, what's something that you take away that's like, this is why you come up with the names you do, right? Because we always want to have our guys, but what makes it where you put together a hot take?
I think looking at it from the lens of like, okay, I know I love this guy as a player, but what's his situation look like? Does he have the QB play? Does he have the path to targets? Like, what does that look like? Because if we really break it down from years past, like you can look at a lot of these wide receivers, especially that were rookies and breakouts, they had a lot of those kind of a lot of these key metrics. They had the QB, they had the target opportunity, they had the high-powered offense. Looking at that rather than just saying, oh, well, I love Travis Hunter, so Emeka Egbuka can't outscore him. So
right,
that's how I try to look at it from that lens. But backstage, Dad, we were talking a lot of the guys on this list we're aligned with, so I'm excited for this show.
Well, tell me about your first one here.
Yeah, so Emeka Egbuka, he's been a guy I've been following since his true freshman season. Obviously, finally living up to the pedigree. Kind of had that injury holding him back in his junior season. Had to go back for a fourth year in school. But before that injury, Dad, he was on par to be a top 10 pick with Marvin Harrison Jr. He's living up to the hype for me. He's crushing camp. We knew he was a pro's pro. We knew he was going to be a guy very coachable, very likable from the QB and coaching staff perspective. But he's the safety blanket that Chris Godwin has been for Baker Mayfield in this offense. And now he's coming in, going to be the number 2 guy right away behind Evans. Potentially could be the one towards the latter half of the year. I think 1,000 yards and 100+ receptions for him, like a Waddle type rookie year, is very doable for me. Does he have the highest ceiling out of the rookie wideouts? Probably not, but I think his floor is the highest, and I think he's on par to have the best season just because of his situation. Baker Mayfield, 4,000, 5,000 passing yard QB. Defense is terrible, so that offense is going to have to throw the ball a ton. And the best part about it that kind of gets overlooked is that division is so bad, Dad. There's not a single good defense. I'd consider Atlanta's defense pretty good. Every other defense is trash. They're going to have to throw the ball a ton. It's going to be a lights out game for 6 games a year for Emeka Egbuka, Dad. He's going to smash.
And Atlanta's given up top 5 fantasy points per game to the wide receiver. The defense overall isn't bad. But Snoog, a lot of people, what everybody's been asking me is, Dad, how close are Emeka Egbuka and Travis Hunter in your rankings now at this point? And it's pretty close. Like, it's a lot closer than what it used to be, right? That's what we talk about in February, March, April, even May, June. You could have got a first plus Egbuka, if you were dealing Travis Hunter. Now the gap feels like an early 2. Like, it's not even a first anymore.
Yeah, they're close. All of them with Tattoo. I think they're all in the same tier.
What I love, and this isn't even a hot take, the Smash Accept Patreon, and I'm going to put the banner down below, is the best value you can get in fantasy football right now. But here's one of the guys from our Discord, and we're going to involve them in on this episode, which is really fun. I love getting, you and I are coming out with these, ideas based on what we've been talking about for months. And, these guys are coming up with what they want. And D-Rock 8629 said Egbuka will be the number 1 leading scorer for wide receivers, at the rookie position. And that's just a lot of basis based off of what you and I have been talking about, based off what they're seeing on their own. And this is where it comes back to me, right? This is one where I think Tetairoa McMillan has a BTJ like 2025 pacing for 1,200 yards and 10 touchdowns. So we look at what Brian Thomas Jr. did last year. It was phenomenal, but it was very based in one. He was the only wide receiver in town. Guess what? Now with Adam Thielen gone, Tetairoa McMillan's out there with Xavier Legette, Hunter Renfrow, who was selling taxes, tax returns and, investment banking, you know what I mean? Like, yeah. And Jimmy Horn Jr. The path to targets for Tetairoa McMillan is clean. A lot of people have been messaging me on Twitter. Well, Dad, the Panthers offense is horrible. Actually, it's not. If you pay attention, Bryce Young finished as a top 10 quarterback over the final 8 weeks of the season. During that time, Adam Thielen was a top 15 wide receiver. So I think Tetairoa McMillan, a guy who's had 1,300 yards back-to-back seasons, 10-plus touchdowns back-to-back seasons, almost puts that up again this year. I think he really flirts with, 80, 1,210, and I think that instantly makes him a top 10 dynasty wide receiver by the time it's all said and done. I think it's a locked and loaded type of thing. And Snoog, when you look at these are all narratives, right? Like some people are going to tell themselves, well, Tetairoa McMillan's in a bad offense. This is what's going to happen. If you believe in these narratives, when Snoog and I are putting them out there, you're like, you know what? This is something I really believe in. This is how you win insulated trades, right? Because everyone right now will tell you, well, AJ Brown's better than Tetairoa McMillan, right? But if you can get Tetairoa McMillan plus for AJ Brown, or you can get Tetairoa McMillan plus for Puka Nacua, you make some of those kind of moves. The guy in the Discord today, we got a mid to early 27 first on top of Tet for Puka because the guy wants to go all in and he's got Matthew Stafford. Do that all day. Those are the kind of trades you want to make. Speaking of rookies, keeping it on brand, your next one.
Yeah, that feels good because this is a player that he's up there with some of my favorite players that we've seen at the running back position coming out in a long time. I mean, I kind of wish he didn't have the season he had last year so he could have stayed as a sneaky top 5 RB that I could have snagged everywhere. But Ashton Jeanty, Dad, I mean, the last time we saw a top 6 drafted running back, it was Zeke and Saquon Barkley. We know the rookie seasons they put up. They were RB1s, 300-plus point scoring seasons. Saquon was the RB1 overall finisher. Zeke was top 3. We haven't seen a running back since then go that high. Bijan went, I think, 8 or 9. Gibbs went out of the top 10. When you get a running back that gets drafted this high with that skill set, with that much dominance coming out of college, going to a situation where you're getting him with Pete Carroll and Chip Kelly, both like dynamic, offensive-minded, run-heavy style coaches, in an offense that is literally going to run through him. They have Brock Bowers and nobody else. Their defense is decent, but it's kind of mid. They could have went any other direction at the 6th overall pick, but they said, no, this is a blue chip prospect. We're going to go with Ashton Jeanty here. He's going to be our guy. We're going to run the offense through him, establish the run game, open up the play action for Geno Smith and Brock Bowers, and move the football. Dad, 350 plus fantasy points and a top 3 finish. Lock it in. It's going to happen. Ashton Jeanty's that dude. He should be a first-round redraft pick.
So King Capo says Jeanty finishes the RB1 overall. Now, to do that, you need 70-plus receptions and 15-plus touchdowns, and that's the tricky part. I think the yards are there. I think he's going to dominate in yards. I think he's going to really be up there. To get RB1 overall, though, you have to score 15 touchdowns. It just has to happen. Yep. There hasn't been a guy in the last 10 years that hasn't done that. For me, and this one,
I love
nothing
this
gets
one.
me more pumped up than a little bit of C4 other than Chase freaking Brown. Chase Brown finishes as a top 3 running back, catching over 80 passes this year. Snoog, I felt like in April we were like, Chase Brown, we'll see what happens. He might, get replaced. May, we're like, okay, well, they added Taj Brooks, but Zach Moss is still there. June, you're like, okay, writing's on the wall here. They're starting to talk about this guy in the same light as like a young Christian McCaffrey, Austin Eckler, a lot more like Eckler, going to be one of those kind of guys. Now it's like you see the offensive coordinator come out and say, we've revamped the entire run game to center it around Chase Brown. We want to plan this offense around Chase Brown because we don't want Joe Burrow to throw 600 times again. They want to keep Joe Burrow upright. They want to keep Chase Brown there. And why not? Halfway through the season, give him a new contract because he's, a later round rookie pick. Go ahead. Chase Brown is someone that you have the opportunity right now to tear off of Saquon Barkley and get a 27 first. You have the opportunity to tear off, Ashton Jeanty and get a 1-2 swap. Chase Brown is going to be that good. By the end of 2025, he is a household name in fantasy football.
I feel like, Dad, he's the better version of Kyron Williams. Like in that offense, when we saw Kyron finish as a top 2 RB just 2 years ago now, it's high-powered offense, clear-cut workhorse role, path to receptions. It's a no-brainer move there. I love that Chase Brown take. The next one is going to make some people's skin crawl and make some people excited, but the reason why I think Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to have a big bounce back year and he could potentially lead the wide receiver position in touchdowns is he had 8 last year. When I watched his entire film, I watched every target from Marvin Harrison Jr.'s rookie season, Dad. I was so honest with myself. I said, he could have had a realistic 6 more touchdowns last year with ease. Literally within inches of a better. Yeah.
They were talking
14 last year.
with Marv. You know what I mean? He's like right up there, or with Malik. He's right in that same area, value-wise, if not higher.
I had him at 14 last year because 2 in the Rams game, both on Kyler. 1 could have had the one-handed catch. 2, 1 was bombed over his head and it was terrible when he was wide open. There was 2 more games, the Bills game, double move, absolutely cooked. There was so many plays where it's like Marv could have had a big touchdown here, but Kyler either missed the throw or didn't even see the throw or threw it too high and Marv barely got his hands on it. But I think Trey McBride doesn't score touchdowns. I love him. It's just true. He doesn't score touchdowns. He's not the red zone guy. It's going to be Marvin Harrison. It's going to be Marvin Harrison Jr. And Kyler Murray has a cupcake schedule with this Cardinals offense, starting with the Saints week 1. He could go out there and have 2-3 touchdowns in week 1 like he did last year against the Rams. I think he's going to have a big bounce back. The offense knows you got to get him going if you want to get things working with this team. If not, Gannon, you're out the door. Get a new head coach in there. So big bounce back for Marv. He's going to score 10 to 12 plus touchdowns this year.
From one sophomore wide receiver to another. Both of these guys were in our breakout show in April where we were like, go buy these guys on the cheap. They've all continuously increased in value. But for me, Odunze breaks out as the wide receiver 1 in Chicago, passing DJ Moore with 1,200 yards and becomes a top 12 dynasty wide receiver. And if there's any 2 current veteran wide receivers who can jump into that top 12, it's Marvin Harrison Jr. and Odunze. They're set up with quarterback play. They're set up with, elite level, more so with the Bears, but potential elite level offenses for scoring. I'm in on this. I mean, I think there's a lot of hot takes you can have. You could talk about Luther Burden. You could talk about DJ Moore. You could talk about Caleb Williams. But I think Odunze, I put a post out there today. I think he's the guy. I think he's going to break out in a big way. 1,200 plus yards, I think, is very achievable for a guy like Odunze. And you could argue he could put up 10 touchdowns too, because this offense is going to score and he is a red zone machine coming out of college.
Yep. This next one's a personal favorite of mine. You know, I'm a big George Kittle fan, but Dad, the reason why I consider this one a hot take, I know some people will be like, that's not a hot take. He was tight end 1 last year. If you look at the ADP gap in both Dynasty and Redraft from George Kittle to Trey McBride and Brock Bowers, it's almost like 2 full rounds in Redraft. And it's almost like, 5, 4, 6 full rounds in Dynasty as well. So it's like George Kittle without Debo, without Brandon Ayuk for 4 to 6 weeks. Juwan Jennings is hurt right now. He is the clear-cut guy in this Kyle Shanahan, Brock Purdy-led offense. He's been a top 5 tight end every single year in points per game since 2018. A couple of them in the top 2 to 3. A couple of them as a top 1 tight end. He's had 1,300 yards before. He paced it last year. He's going to post that this year, and he's going to finish as the tight end 1 overall. Best value in redraft at tight end. Best value in Dynasty at tight end. Dad, there's a chance he even breaks that. Like, I feel like he could have a vintage Travis Kelce type season with this offense. As long as they stay competitive and can be like 9, 10, 8-win team by like week 15 where they're fighting for a playoff spot, then it's going to be George Kittle to the moon. We just can't have them be bad again and then they rest him. But he's going to smash as long as he's healthy.
If you don't get Bowers, you get McBride. If you don't get McBride, you get Kittle. If you don't get Kittle, you get Evan Engram. Evan Engram will post 100 receptions en route to a top 3 finish. Snoog, you look at this offense, it's Cortland Sutton, Pat Bryant, Marvin Mims, Troy Franklin. They're looking for a real number 2. And Cortland Sutton is not always healthy. Evan Engram could pace out as, the wide receiver 1 for the Broncos if that kind of situation would happen. Evan Engram had over 100 receptions 2 years ago, 2022 and 2023 finished as top 5. And now all of a sudden, you get Kittle in the 3rd or 4th round. Evan Engram falls to the 7th, 8th round. And if you don't get Evan Engram, you get Tyler Warren. Tyler Warren is going to be a top 5 tight end, which we definitely could have put on this show. We could have done Colston Loveland. What I love about this is it makes you just hone in and go with a couple of guys. But Evan Engram in Dynasty, Snoog, Kittle's going to cost you a first. You can get Evan Engram for a mid-second. And I think he's going to put up really nice production. And unlike Kittle, he's going to be someone that, he doesn't ever line up, like on the line. He's someone that's essentially a wide receiver. So next one here, this is one that you and I both love. And before you even mention TreVeyon Henderson, guys, if you're getting involved in depth chart drama right now, just stop. Okay. If you read that TreVeyon Henderson is the RB3 and kick returner for the Patriots, just stop.
Remember
like
BC
we're seeing
Johnson over BC Johnson over Justin Jefferson.
Yeah. Well, you look at every single one of these guys has dropped down on the rankings. You see where Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt moved down to 4. Caleb Johnson moved down to 3 behind Kenneth Gainwell. If you think Kenneth Gainwell outtouches Caleb Johnson, you're crazy. TreVeyon Henderson has moved behind Antonio Gibson. If you think they drafted TreVeyon Henderson the second to sit behind Antonio
with
Gibson,
that roster,
you don't deserve to have him. Go trade for TreVeyon Henderson. Go ahead.
Yeah, he's going to dominate all the touches in this offense year one. I'm confident in that. Ramondre's fumbling issues. TreVeyon Henderson doesn't fumble the football. He's a pro's pro. He takes care of it. Coming from Ohio State. The best thing about him, Dad, he has that Jahmyr Gibbs, Jamal Charles, Devon A-Chain trait where it's every time he's on the field, every time he's touching the football, he can score an 80-yard touchdown. And that's what I like most about TreVeyon. He's also probably the best running back in the NFL right now in pass protection. There's literally like a 2-minute highlight tape of him flatlining defensive ends from all different Power 5 schools last year. So he's a dynamic receiver. He's a weapon for this Patriots offense. Josh McDaniels is a screen guru at the running back position. Mike Vrabel's a run-heavy offensive-minded coach. This is going to be a no-brainer move for me. He's a steal in round 4 to 5 in redraft, and he's a steal in Dynasty. I think he's my Dynasty RB5 or RB6 right now with room to grow. He's going to smash. You know how I feel about TreVeyon Henderson, but he's a dog.
0 fumbles in college. I just looked up. He didn't have a fumble his high school career. Like the dude takes care of the ball. That's insane to me, right? Like I just pulled that up on Max Preps and I'm like, my man didn't have a varsity. He might, maybe his freshman year, maybe a little JV ball. But speaking of JV, this is the dude right here. No, I don't know why speaking of JV matters, but Omarion Hampton leads all rookie running backs in rushing yards, not total yards, rushing yards and touchdowns in this offense. I think there's a real chance that he touches the ball the same amount as Ashton Jeanty, but I think the offense is considerably better. Like the Chargers, you put Ashton Jeanty on the Chargers, and you could really put him in the same conversation as Bijan and Gibbs as a rookie. But I think Omarion Hampton gonna score 10 plus touchdowns, gonna have 1,400 plus rushing yards. He's a guy that honestly, I think people have started to knock back down because they said, well, Najee Harris is back now. Najee Harris had that injury with the fireworks, but hasn't touched a football yet. Like he's going to get cleared, but he still hasn't taken any contact. He hasn't done anything with it. That worries me a little bit. So I am definitely out on Najee Harris. I love these where we have Stick from in the Discord. It says Drake Maye is going to be a top 5 overall quarterback. Snoog, from 0 to 100%, what is the likelihood of Drake Maye finishing as top 5 this year?
I'd say 25%.
20%.
I don't think he has the weapon. I don't think he has the weapons, and I don't think he's ready to quite be there yet. Rushing wise, he could probably get there with like 600 to 700 rushing yards. Top 5 to 10. I'd say top 10. Yes, top 5 10, is kind of hot. Like that's spicy hot.
I like it. Here we go. Speaking of hot, this is your boy. This is kind of lukewarm though, man. Like
it is, yeah.
1K yards is that? What is that? Like 72 yards a game?
Yeah, I did it before. Like I think I sent this to you before all the news with like him being not really being the DB now. It's kind of not as much of a hot take. I think this would have been like a month or 2 ago.
Spice it up.
He's gonna smash 1,000 yards, 10 TDs, 80 plus receptions, top 20 finish. Brian Thomas Jr. is that dude, but so is Travis Hunter. They're both going to be great in this offense with Liam Cohen. The thing with Travis Hunter is he's going to get so many manufactured touches given to him by Liam Cohen's offense that it's just going to be light work for him. Like he's just going to have to like organically go out there and make a big play, like 1 to 2 big plays a week, and he'll be good to go as a wide receiver 1. Like that's literally how easy Trevor Lawrence is. It's going to be hit the open man, like that simple. And you already see the bonding, and there's a lot of hype behind Travis Hunter with what Trevor Lawrence has said about him. Dad, there's a real chance that I think Emeka Egbuka, Tet McMillan, and Travis Hunter all have 1,000 yards this season if all goes good with health of the quarterback and themselves. Mm-hmm. And I really think that the next guy you're going to talk about, I just don't think he can get there like these guys. Like I think these guys are cemented a big tier above as 1,000-yard finishers.
So I'm throwing this out here real quick, but Mike Virginia says, guys, Khalil Shakir or Keenan Allen. We're not going to answer that question. What we are going to tell you about is tonight we are going to be going live for our first ever Sit Start show. We're going to call it Sit Start Smash. Brock's going to come on. Snoog and I are going to we're going to talk about some of your matchups. Jump in with super chats, jump in from YouTube, jump in from Twitter. We're going to try to help you guys out with your lineups. A guy that I'm putting in lineups everywhere. He's 20% owned right now. Matthew Golden, I believe, scores 10 touchdowns as the Packers wide receiver 1 and becomes the steal of the rookie draft. And I know a lot of people are going to say, well, Dad, 1 year at college, Texas hasn't produced a lot of elite level wide receivers. This guy is set up. Honestly, if you put Travis Hunter, Tetairoa McMillan, Emeka Egbuka, I don't care who you put him in his Packers offense, and then as the wide receiver 1, you would be saying this guy's going to finish top 10. I think Matthew Golden this week against, I believe, Detroit, who gives up the second most fantasy points per game. You see him go over 100 with a touchdown week 1. His value is only going to rise. And I think he's very, very cilantro, if you will. Either you love him or you hate him. I'm personally all in on Matthew Golden just because of the cost and the opportunity. Talent-wise, you and I both had him. And a lot of people say, well, it's like Clyde Edwards-Helaire of wide receivers, you know what I mean? Because we had him at wide receiver 5 coming in, and we kept him at wide receiver 5. It's just everybody else's value went up more. It's not like we had Clyde Edwards-Helaire where he was RB5 and then everybody moved him to RB1. Matthew Golden's kind of stayed where he's at for you and I. We haven't gotten overly bullish, and I think that's the important part of the process. A guy that you and I were bullish on in 2023, we liked in 2024. Now in 2025, he was a value. We were getting him in the 4th round. I got my man Vintage J says, Ollie Gordon is a top 15 running back scoring 10 touchdowns in this Mostert role. You as well said 10 plus touchdowns. I think we talked it into fruition the other day on the show. We were like, okay, he's a nice insurance back. And we're like, wait a second. This is like the Raheem Mostert here. He's more than that. And Jalen Wright looks like he has completely fumbled away the job.
Yeah, I've helped so many people with their drafts, including like friends and family lately. And I've got every single one drafting Ollie Gordon, Emeka Egbuka, and TreVeyon Henderson. And the values they get in those casual redraft leagues are ridiculous on these type of players. Also, Judkins going in like round 12. I've done that for all of them as well. But Ollie Gordon, Dad, the Dolphins led the NFL in rushing touchdowns in 2023, just 2 years ago when they were all healthy. Ollie Gordon in that Raheem Mostert role, Dad. Mostert scored 21 total touchdowns in that offense, and A-Chain was still an RB1 in points per game that year. So there's room for both, and it's going to happen. They're going to use Ollie to keep A-Chain fresh. He's a 230-plus pound running back. That's 6'1" with a big frame. We saw him win the Kenneth Walker Award back in 2023 with Oklahoma State. He had a little bit of a down year this year, but that's how you get discounts. That's what happened with Chuba Hubbard. He rushed for 2K yards, came out flat. Now look at him. He's a stud that just got a second contract. So I think Ollie Gordon's going to be the guy here, the second down running back that handles the first down and second down, early down between the 20 stuff, maybe some of the goal line stuff. But A-Chain probably catches 80 passes if he's healthy.
And a lot of you guys are just tuning into Smash except for the first time. And you're like, oh, these guys have been posting a lot about redraft on Twitter. They're doing this, they're that, and I posted my rookie thread talking about these guys. It got 18 million views because a lot of you guys don't know who the rookies are. If you really want to get involved and you like fantasy, you're going to love Dynasty. Honestly, you bump up all these rookies every year. You're a lot more prepared. You talk about, having that perfect redraft team. And then all of a sudden at the end of the year, you're like, it's done. Not in Dynasty. You keep it. And then next year, you go ahead and you draft your rookies. And the best part is, even when you're losing, you're winning because the 101, you got Ashton Jeanty as opposed to somebody at the 112. Guy who falls to the 112 a lot, and I'm going to spice this thing up hard. Jaxson Dart takes over by week 6. He finishes as a top 15 quarterback in fantasy points per game and catapults Malik Neighbors to the first ever 2,000-yard season. I could see a path where if Winston or Dart take over, like Malik Neighbors is going to have Josh Gordon freaking numbers where it was like 220 a game and 12 receptions, and RIP Josh Gordon's career.
That would be
it's
crazy.
A shame. It's a shame that
someone's got to do it, Dad.
We
have Lamb, Chase, Jefferson, and Neighbors with those 4 talents in the situations they're all in. Which one has no target competition? It's Malik Neighbors. And I think Neighbors and my man Tedder put in here, he goes, Dart's going to have the highest fantasy points per game average of all rookie quarterbacks. I could see that. I mean, it's just him or Cam Ward, like maybe we get Tyler Shuck in there. That's another type story. Shadoodoo.
Shador Sanders? No, I don't think so. All right, next one here. We got a couple more. We're going to read some of the comments at the end. Got some of the guys in the Discord, but let's crank these last few.
Yeah, Kenneth Walker. He's a polarizing name. We keep seeing all the Zach Charbonnet love. We keep saying, oh, is Kenneth Walker healthy? Is he good to go? Is he going to be the starter? He's the starter. This offensive-minded coach, Mike McDaniels and Clint Kubiak, raved about him all offseason. They're keeping him fresh. They're keeping him healthy. We're going to see probably more Charbonnet than we did last year when Walker's healthy. Mm-hmm. But Walker's going to get all the receiving work because he's a better receiving back. He's more dynamic in space. And he's better in the red zone. Like, he's so creative. When the play shuts down, he can turn a broken play into an 80-yard touchdown. He has that TreVeyon Henderson trait. He has that Jahmyr Gibbs trait where he could score at any point in the field. It's literally health holding him back. He'd be a top 5 to 10 running back every year since he's been in the league if he played a full 17. Last year, top 3 in receptions per game, top 3 in targets per game. He had 16-plus points per game from a fantasy football perspective. Dad, I think he's smashing if he's healthy.
And Mr. Wager 2000 says the same thing. Walker finally stays healthy, finishes as a top 5 running back. My man Godzilla in the Discord says Darnold pushes Jackson Smith and Jigba to a top 5 finish with 15 touchdowns. The 15 touchdowns I don't see, but a top 5 finish, I could see that in the realm of possibilities for a guy like Jackson Smith and Jigba. Got a few more here from me. Proving the 2024 finish wasn't a fluke. Bryce Young finishes as a top 12 quarterback. I mean, he did it last year for the final 8, and I think he's one of the best dynasty quarterback values there is because he goes, 5-6 rounds later than some of the studs. And I think you're going to get really good value because everybody saw how bad he was his rookie year, how bad he started his sophomore year. But sometimes it takes a benching, and then they come out like this. To add to this, and this is going to be hot, but Anthony Richardson takes over week 8 and finishes as a top 12 quarterback in fantasy points per game. I think the benching for Bryce Young could be the same thing for the benching of Anthony Richardson. This is the first one where it's like, it's not benching because he's hurt or we're kind of debating. They flat out benched him. And when a guy like that, when a big time athlete gets benched, it's a wake-up call. You know what I mean? There's no excuses. We've all been in those situations where we play football, baseball, basketball, where, like we end up having to sit and you're like, oh, I wonder what that was. But flat out at the quarterback position saying, you know what, we're going with Daniel Jones. Yeah. Ouch. That's a check, so that we'll move on to there. We got 2 spicy wide receiver ones here. Yeah, are they Nico spicy Collins. Though? Are they? They're not that spicy.
This ain't spicy. Nico Collins leads the league in receiving yards and finishes as the wide receiver 1 overall. This is so doable. The only reason you can argue against it is because of how good the Texans defense is they're, especially with their division, they're always wiping that division and they're like by quarter 3 running the ball and just punting it back. But it's injury. Like if he gets hurt, that's what's holding them back. Because literally last year he was averaging like 100 receiving yards per game before the hamstring injury. CJ Stroud's an elite level passer. This duo is going to dominate this year without Stephon Diggs and Tank Dell. 2 rookies sliding in with Christian Kirk. Nico's the alpha there. He's an elite efficiency guy as well with the yards per out run, and he's going to smash.
How many yards? 17?
I think 1,700 to 1,800 is like a high, but like a good projection for him to finish as the wide receiver 1 overall.
So Drake London for me leads the NFL in receptions with 130 as the wide receiver 1 overall. So we've had guys in that 130. The most ever is, I believe, 146. If you saw what he did in 3 games, I mean, I know we can't just like extract that and project it further there, but he's clearly going to pass. Last year he had, I believe, 108. So I mean, I think with Michael Penix, could absolutely smash that number. I don't like talking about the Cowboys. I really don't, as an Eagles guy, but George Pickens is someone you and I have been drafting everywhere. I'm getting a lot of start-sit questions because the Eagles are kind of a tough week 1 matchup. And again, we're going to be going live tonight. If you're listening to this on a Wednesday, we're going to be going live talking about start-sits. We're going to do every Tuesday, we do a trade show. Every Wednesday, we're looking at trying to do a start-sit show for you guys because we're trying to give you the best possible scenario we can for fantasy football. Hit me up on George Pickens.
Yeah, George Pickens, he's going to smash this year. I think he's finishing as the top 12 wideout. 1, he's going to be this year's T. Higgins, Dad. Same type of offense. The defense is trash. We saw what Joe Burrow did last year with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. I think Dak Prescott, George Pickens, CeeDee Lamb are going to literally repeat what they did last year to an extent. George Pickens, 1,200 yards, 10 plus TDs, top 12 finisher. He's going to blow up. He's going to skyrocket in dynasty rankings. All the hype we've been talking about with this guy, he's finally going to live up to the hype because he finally has a top 10 quarterback, a passing offense that actually
feels good,
football, and a terrible defense where it's not, 10-3 in the fourth quarter and it's run the ball to try to win it like that Steelers offense. It was gross. So he's going to smash this year.
And in conjunction with this, and like Dak Prescott becomes the first quarterback since Patrick Mahomes to throw for 5,000 yards. Mahomes did it in 2022. If you look at what Dak Prescott has done every other year, in 2023, 4,000 yards. In 2021, 4,000 yards. In 2019, 4,000 yards. This year, with no defense, and they just lost Micah Parsons, the two best wide receivers he's ever had. No run game at all. No defense. Perfect storm. This is where you end up seeing Dak Prescott put up 5,000 yards. Much better than that Perfect Storm movie with Mark Wahlberg and the goofy beard. Next one here, we talk about Jake Ferguson. Diego Garcia says Jake Ferguson finishes as a top 3 tight end. My man NH Papa says Tyrone Tracy finishes top 15, and the Giants beat the Cowboys twice to finish third in the division. Caleb Johnson from Maybach Mac says Caleb Johnson is a jag/bust. I'm a little bit more bullish on him here, but we'll see how that goes. This is spicy as heck. Like, this is just mixing up your, ghost peppers in your curry already. Brock Bowers scores 17 touchdowns and is not only the tight end 1 overall, Snoog, but the wide receiver 1 overall.
Wow, like Travis Kelce vibes from him. He's got the talent in the skill set. It's just if the situation can let him get there.
He could clearly do it. Big C 17, he's a Bills fan. He said Keon Coleman scores 14 touchdowns, finishes top 8. Go Bills. That's one of those ones, Snoog, where it's like, if you got to take a hot take to save your life, this is not the one you want to take, but it is fun. I would take more like this one from Chaz. Darnell Mooney finishes as a top 35. We got Constance says Austin Eckler, your boy, ends as an RB1. And then 2 more here. Justin Credible says Justin Fields finishes top 7. He's finished top 8 every single year he's been a starter. I can see it. And it's AJ Estevez says DK Metcalf finishes as a top 7. That's a random number just to go top 7. But again, this is what we enjoy doing. This is the kind of stuff where, honestly, we enjoy talking very practical use on things. But then sometimes when you have hot takes and you can just kind of throw things out there, it makes it a lot more fun. It makes it where we can have a little bit of fun. We can lay back, but we can have some facts based in that. So, guys, this has been a fun show. Snoog, we are literally 1 day away. I don't know what that makes you feel like, but I'm like, it's like a kid in Christmas. We have so much going on.
From this could be one of the best games of the season tomorrow with Dak Prescott versus Jalen Hurts. I think it's going to be a shootout, like 30+ points scored on both sides. It could be one of the best games of the year, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. And this isn't a hot take again. Right down there below, patreon.com/smash accept. One of the best kept secrets in fantasy. So many guys have made hundreds of dollars, going in there, learning from Snoog and I, getting their teams in the right spot. Guy today sent me his roster. He goes, look at this. Tell me what you think for the weekend. $5 a month to get a DM access where you get someone like Snoog and myself to just say, hey, roster looks good. Or, hey, I would start Emeka Egbuka there instead of Devonta Smith. That's how you win championships. That's what we're here to do. Snoog and I are here to help you win. So thanks for tuning in and enjoy the process. Snoog's like, I got no